Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack complex ideas to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a journey into a concept that fundamentally challenges how we think about competition itself. Have you ever felt like you or the organization you're part of are constantly caught in, well, a brutal fight? Battling for market share, slashing prices, watching margins shrink in a crowded space? If that sounds familiar, you're likely swimming in what our source material today vividly calls a red ocean.
That's right. And it's fascinating how many businesses accept this intense competition as simply, an unavoidable reality. It's just the cost of doing business.
Right.
But our deep dive today into the seminal work Blue Ocean Strategy unveils a radically different path, a way to step out of that bloody water entirely and create uncontested market space, unlocking entirely new demand.
Exactly. Our mission today is to explore this powerful framework. We'll show you not just what these blue oceans are, but really how to systematically create them.
Yeah, and the hurdles too.
And critically, how to overcome the common hurdles that can derail even the best ideas. You're going to uncover some surprising facts and practical insights that could truly transform your perspective, whether you're leading a business, managing a team, or, simply thinking about your own career trajectory. Okay, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So let's start with the familiar ground first. What exactly is a red ocean?
Okay.
Our sources describe it as, well, basically the existing market space we all know, characterized by really intense competition.
Right. It's where companies are constantly fighting to gain a greater share of existing demand, and that often results in those bloodied waters, hence the name. It's a pretty stark image.
It really is a battle for survival where, gains for one player typically mean losses for another.
Exactly. And this pervasive approach is rooted in what's known as a structuralist view of strategy.
Okay.
It treats market structure as a given, like a fixed reality that companies just have to adapt to. So the strategic focus becomes carving out a defensible position against rivals.
Which inherently frames competition as a zero-sum game.
Precisely. Strategy, in this view, is defined by the supply side. How do we beat the competition within these established boundaries? How do we outperform them?
And the unfortunate result of this relentless battle, accelerated commoditization.
That's a huge one.
Our sources point to extensive studies on major brands showing that products and services in so many categories are becoming increasingly similar.
They really are.
And when those differences blur, what's left for consumers to choose on? Mostly price.
Price, yeah. Suddenly, people aren't insisting on Tide over another detergent or, Colgate over Crest. They're just looking for the best deal.
Right. Gets much harder to stand out.
Exactly. Differentiating brands becomes incredibly difficult, which naturally leads to escalating price wars and shrinking profit margins.
And this isn't just when the economy's bad, right?
No, that's the thing. It persists even when the economy is booming. It's a challenging and, frankly, unsustainable path for long-term growth and profitability. Just a tough place to be.
Okay, so if the red ocean is this intense, bloody battleground, what's the alternative? How do you actually escape?
Well, this is where the blue ocean concept comes into play. Our sources explain it as creating uncontested market space.
Uncontested, okay.
Yeah. Here, you're not fighting over existing demand. You're actually creating new demand. The goal isn't to beat the competition, but to make it entirely irrelevant.
Imagine that, stepping out of that tumultuous Red Sea into a wide-open, calm blue expanse.
Exactly. And what's truly compelling here is the core premise uncovered by the research. There are no permanently excellent companies or industries. It's not about finding the right industry.
Interesting.
Sustainable success is fundamentally tied to making smart strategic moves. And the most impactful strategic move, the authors argue, is the systematic creation of these blue oceans.
So it's not about luck?
No, this isn't about some lucky break or a random stroke of genius. It's about a deliberate, structured approach to strategy, grounded in, well, a ton of data.
And this isn't just theory, right? You mentioned data. The whole Blue Ocean strategy framework is built on, over 25 years of rigorous research?
That's right. They examined more than 150 strategic moves made over a century, from 1880 all the way to 2000.
Wow.
Across more than 30 diverse industries. I mean, everything from hotels and cinema to computers and automobiles. It was a massive analytical undertaking.
That's huge. And they didn't just look at the winners, did they?
No, and that's key. They didn't just cherry-pick the success stories. They meticulously analyzed the less successful competitors, too, those caught in the red ocean. They were looking for patterns. What common factors converged among the blue ocean creators? And just as importantly, what divergences separated them from the mere survivors or, the losers in those industries.
So that depth of research moves us beyond just anecdotes.
Exactly. It offers a more kind of scientific understanding of how high performance is achieved by consistently creating new market space rather than just fighting harder in the old one.
So it's really about understanding why some companies continually innovate and break free, while others just get stuck in that cycle of competitive benchmarking, always looking over their shoulder.
Precisely. It's about learning from those who successfully escaped the red ocean.
Okay, so let's get into the core of it. How do they do that? This brings us to value innovation.
Yes, value innovation. This is really the cornerstone.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What consistently separated the winners, the blue ocean creators, from the losers wasn't just tweaking things. It was their fundamental approach to strategy itself.
Right. Companies trapped in the red ocean typically follow a conventional path. They try to beat the competition by building a defensible position within the existing industry order. They benchmark, they react, they make incremental improvements. Standard stuff.
Trying to be a bit better, a bit faster, a bit cheaper within the known rules.
Exactly. But here's the surprising part the research uncovered. The creators of blue oceans didn't use the competition as their benchmark at all. They just weren't focused on them in the same way.
Really? Not at all.
Not as the primary driver. They pursued a completely different strategic logic, one the authors call value innovation.
Value innovation. Okay, break that down.
Value innovation is key because instead of focusing on outcompeting, it's about making the competition irrelevant. And you achieve this by creating a leap in value for both buyers and your company simultaneously.
A leap in value for both. That's interesting. So it opens up entirely new and uncontested market space.
That's the goal.
So value innovation puts equal emphasis on value and innovation. It's not just making something incrementally better or a little cheaper. It's aiming for a transformative shift.
Exactly. And that's a crucial distinction we need to make clear. Let's clarify what value innovation isn't.
Okay.
First, value without innovation is often just incremental improvement. You're making something a bit better, maybe tweaking a feature, but not enough to truly stand out. It's an upgrade, not a breakthrough.
Just doing more of the same, essentially.
Pretty much. Then there's innovation without value. This tends to be technology-driven or pioneering, but it often shoots way beyond what buyers are ready to accept or pay for.
Ah, the cool tech that nobody actually buys.
Right. Our sources tell us that these technology innovators often lay the eggs that other companies hatch. Think about Motorola's Iridium satellite phone system back in the day.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Huge launch.
Technically brilliant, bleeding-edge technology. But it failed to offer a dramatic leap in utility for the mass of buyers, or it was just way too expensive. It was innovation, absolutely, but it lacked broad-based value.
Okay, so value without innovation is incremental. Innovation without value is maybe ahead of its time or misses the mark. So what's the third piece?
Value innovation only occurs when companies align innovation with genuine utility for the buyer at an attractive price, and this is critical, in a way that's cost-effective for the company to deliver.
Utility, price, and cost, all aligned.
All aligned. It means the innovation isn't just cool tech. It's truly useful, it's affordable for the target market, and it's profitable for the company. That's the sweet spot.
Now, traditionally, strategic thinking, the stuff you learn in business school, says you have to choose.
Right. The trade-off.
Either create greater value for customers at a higher cost, that's differentiation, or offer reasonable value at a lower cost leadership. It's presented as an either.
A fundamental trade-off. But blue ocean strategists, the research shows, consistently defy this deep-seated dogma.
How so?
Those that successfully create blue oceans pursue differentiation and low cost simultaneously.
Simultaneous. Okay, that breaks the mold.
It's a fundamental break from conventional wisdom and a critical insight from the research. It's not about just, say, making a small production improvement to lower costs within an existing market. It's about a strategic redefinition that changes the entire utility proposition. It creates a new market space where that old trade-off just doesn't apply anymore.
So you're changing the rules of the game, not just playing it better.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so how do you actually achieve this? This simultaneous differentiation and low cost sounds great in theory, but how do you make it happen?
Right. You need tools, practical tools to visualize your strategy and the competitive landscape. And our sources introduce the strategy canvas.
Strategy canvas, okay.
It's essentially a graphic snapshot. It shows how a company, or even an entire industry, performs across its key factors of competition. What do companies currently compete on? How much do they invest in each factor? It's both a diagnostic tool and an action guide.
Let's make this concrete. Can you get an example?
Sure. Let's use the U.S. wine industry around the year 2000. It was a classic red ocean, just textbook.
Okay.
Intense competition, mounting price pressure, demand was basically flat, despite consumers having this overwhelming, almost paralyzing choice.
I can picture the wine aisle. Yeah.
Exactly. And wineries back then were largely focused on over-delivering on prestige and quality, but they defined quality through complexity.
Complexity like what?
Factors like, analogical terminology on the label, aging processes, tannins, oak, vineyard pedigree. These were elements that winemakers and connoisseurs equated with high quality, aiming for wines suited to, like, special occasions or cellaring.
Right, stuff that sounds fancy but might not mean much to the average person just wanting a glass of wine with dinner.
Precisely. For the average person, this complexity was actually a huge turnoff. It felt intimidating, pretentious even.
Yeah.
The intricate taste profiles were challenging for the everyday palate, and just the sheer number of choices on store shelves, plastered with jargon nobody understood, left average buyers feeling insecure and overwhelmed.
So that's the red ocean picture. How do you break out of that? How do you simplify something that complex?
Okay, this is where the practical tools really shine. The strategy canvas helps you see the current state, diagnose the problem, but the 4 actions framework, sometimes called the ERRC grid, is how you actually change it.
ERRC, what does that stand for?
It stands for eliminate, reduce, raise, create. To reconstruct those buyer value elements and craft a new value curve that defies conventional thinking, the authors developed this framework. It challenges an industry's strategic logic and business model with 4 powerful questions.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, eliminate. Which factors that the industry takes for granted should be completely eliminated? Think about what no longer delivers real value or maybe even detracts from it for your target buyers.
Get rid of the baggage. Okay.
Second,
Yeah.
reduce. Which factors should be reduced well below the industry standard? Identify areas where everyone's overserving customers, driving up costs without delivering truly commensurate value in return.
Trim the fat. Got it.
Third, raise. Which factors should be raised well above the industry standard? What elements truly deliver superior value to buyers and should be amplified? Where should you really double down?
Focus on what matters.
Right. And fourth, create. Which factors should be created that the industry has never offered? This is where you push the boundaries. Uncover entirely new sources of value that competitors aren't even thinking about.
Eliminate, reduce, raise, create. ERRC. It sounds simple, but powerful.
It is, because it directly pushes companies to pursue differentiation and low costs simultaneously. Eliminating and reducing factors helps lower costs, while raising and creating factors drives differentiation. It breaks that traditional value-cost trade-off we talked about.
And it also flags companies that fall into a common trap, right?
Yes, exactly. It immediately flags companies that are only focused on raising and creating. That often leads to over-engineering products and services, increasing costs without necessarily capturing more market share or improving profitability.
Trying to offer everything to everyone.
Which rarely works. The beauty of the ERC grid is its simplicity and its action orientation. It makes it accessible to managers at any level and forces a rigorous scrutiny of all the factors an industry competes on.
Okay, let's see this in action. You mentioned the wine industry. How did a company use ERRC there?
The perfect example is yellowtail wine.
Yellowtail. Okay, I know that one.
Most people do. Instead of trying to fight on complexity and prestige within the existing U.S. wine market, the company, Casella Wines, used the ERRC grid to completely redraw the strategic profile of the industry. They created a vibrant blue ocean.
How did they apply the 4 actions?
Systematically. First, they eliminated factors like all that complicated anasorological terminology, any mention of aging qualities, and specific vineyard distinctions.
Stuff that intimidated the average buyer.
Exactly. Things critical for connoisseurs, but just noise or confusion for the mass market. They also reduced their wine range drastically, offering only 2 varieties, initially a Chardonnay and a Shiraz. And they simplified the taste complexity, focusing on an easy-to-understand sweetness and very fruit-forward profile. A stark contrast to the complex notes of oak and tannins in traditional wines.
Okay, so they cut out a lot. What did they raise and create?
They raised the focus on fun and simplicity, making wine easy to choose, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. And they created a truly accessible wine. The focus was on broad appeal. Those fruit flavors, the slightly sweeter taste profile, and a completely non-intimidating approach. Think about their labels: simple, colorful, with that kangaroo.
Very memorable. No fancy chateau or complex descriptions.
None of that. Their implicit tagline was something like, a fun and simple wine to be enjoyed every day, not just for special occasions.
And the results?
Genuinely staggering. By August 2003, just a few years after launching in the U.S., Yellowtail was the #1 selling red wine in 750 milliliter bottles. It outsold wines from France, Italy, even established California labels.
Wow, #1 that quickly.
Yeah. Its annual sales quickly soared past 4.5 million cases. Within a decade, it became one of the top 5 most powerful wine brands globally. It didn't just steal share, it created a blue ocean of new demand, pulling in people who rarely drank wine, or beer and spirits drinkers who were previously intimidated by traditional wine offerings.
That's a phenomenal success story based on fundamentally rethinking the value proposition.
Absolutely. Using ERRC to redefine the market.
So when you map a winning strategy like Yellowtail on that strategy canvas, what does it look like? What are the characteristics of a good blue ocean strategy curve?
Our sources highlight 3 key characteristics you can usually see on the canvas.
Okay.
1 is focus. Every great strategy has focus. Companies like Yellowtail or think Cirque du Soleil or Southwest Airlines, they don't spread their efforts thin across every single factor of competition.
They pick their battles.
Exactly. They concentrate their investments and energy on a select few factors that really matter to their target audience. Like Southwest, emphasizing friendly service, speed, and frequent point-to-point departures, which allowed them to avoid costly investments in meals, lounges, or complex hub systems.
Makes sense. What's the second characteristic?
Divergence. A blue ocean strategy's value curve always stands apart. It looks radically different from the industry's average profile. The shape is unique.
Not just slightly higher or lower on the existing factors.
No, it's qualitatively different. And this isn't about just incremental improvement. It's a direct result of not benchmarking competitors, but instead looking across alternatives and applying those 4 actions.
Yeah.
Eliminating, reducing, raising, and creating. The divergence reflects the new value proposition.
Okay, focus, divergence, and the third.
A compelling tagline. Now, this might sound like marketing fluff, but it's actually a good litmus test for a strong strategy. A good strategy can usually be captured in a clear, truthful, and memorable tagline.
Like the Southwest one you mentioned.
Exactly. The speed of a plane at the price of a car whenever you need it. It truthfully advertises the core offering and speaks directly to what buyers care about. It captures the essence of their blue ocean. For Yellowtail, it was maybe more implicit, but that fun, simple, everyday message came through clearly.
So the tagline isn't just slapped on at the end, it reflects the core strategy.
It should, yes. If you can't easily articulate your strategy in a compelling tagline, it might be too complex, too internally focused, or just not divergent enough. It needs to capture the essence of the new value proposition, or customers will lose trust and interest.
Focus, divergence, compelling tagline. Got it. And the strategy canvas isn't just for building new strategies, right? You said it's also diagnostic.
Absolutely. It's a powerful diagnostic tool. It can help you quickly spot if your company is currently stuck, perhaps unknowingly, in a red ocean.
How would that show up on the canvas?
Well, a few ways. For example, if your company's value curve is high across all factors, you're trying to be the best at everything, but your market share and profitability don't reflect those massive investments.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the canvas signals you might be over-delivering without payback. You're pouring resources into elements that only add incremental value, maybe things customers don't even care that much about anymore. To truly innovate value, you need to think about eliminating and reducing, not just constantly raising and creating more complexity.
Okay, what else?
Another red flag is strategic contradictions. These are areas where you offer a high level on one factor, but completely ignore others that really should support it.
Like what?
Our sources mention an online financial services company that won awards for its easy-to-use website, high on ease of use. But the site itself was agonizingly slow.
Ah, the contradiction. Easy to use if you can ever get it to load.
Exactly. This contradiction explained why a supposedly well-regarded site struggled to actually attract and keep customers. The canvas would make that mismatch visually obvious.
Okay. Over-delivery, contradictions, any others?
A third sign is if, when you're trying to draw your strategy canvas, you find yourself using internal operational jargon.
Like megahertz instead of speed.
Perfect example. If you're labeling the factors of competition with terms only insiders understand, instead of language reflecting what buyers actually value, it indicates an internally driven company. Your strategic vision isn't built on an outside-in perspective, driven by buyer utility. And it's very hard to create new industry demand if you're stuck looking inward.
So drawing the strategy canvas really forces a company to confront its current reality, warts and all.
It does, and while that can be challenging, the process itself, getting managers together to map out the current state and then brainstorm using ERRC, can be a powerful wake-up call. It often inspires the need for fundamental change.
Right. It gives you a common picture to react to.
Precisely.
Okay, so the ERRC grid is powerful for reshaping the value curve. But the big question is, how do you know what factors to even consider eliminating, reducing, raising, or creating? How do you find those unexplored market boundaries in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you systematically look for these opportunities? Well, our sources lay out 6 systematic paths. Think of them as frameworks for reconstructing market boundaries. These paths essentially teach you how to look beyond your existing industry definitions and assumptions.
6 paths. Okay, let's walk through them. What's the first one?
Path 1 is to look across alternative industries.
Alternative industries. Okay.
Most companies naturally obsess over beating their direct rivals within their defined industry. But think about it from the buyer's perspective. Buyers often implicitly weigh alternatives from completely different industries when they're trying to make a purchase decision, all to achieve the same basic objective.
Like your earlier example, going to a restaurant or the movies or a concert for a night out.
Exactly. Those aren't substitutes in form or function. A meal is very different from a film, but they are alternatives buyers consider to achieve that common goal.
And you're saying companies often miss this.
Fascinatingly, yes. Sellers often lose this intuitive thinking once they're focused on their own products and direct competitors. They rarely step back and consider how customers make trade-offs across these very different alternatives. And because these industry walls typically exist, the space between alternative industries often provides incredibly rich opportunities for value innovation.
Okay, give us an example of a company that did this.
A great one is NTT Docomo's iMode service, launched in Japan back in 1999.
iMode, right. Early mobile internet.
Exactly. The Japanese telecom industry at the time was a total red ocean fierce competition on price and handset technology. Docomo looked beyond just rival mobile phone companies and considered the alternatives their customers were using, traditional mobile phones and the internet on PCs.
Two very different things back then.
Very different. They saw the internet offered amazing things, endless information, email, entertainment. But it also came with significant downsides, especially then. Expensive hardware, information overload, the hassle of logging on, dial-up speeds, and even fear of using credit cards online.
Yeah, it was clunky.
Mobile phones, on the other hand, offered mobility, voice calls, and relative ease of use. So iMode created its blue ocean by simply eliminating the internet's biggest downsides while leveraging the strengths of mobile phone.
How did they do that?
They offered simple billing. All the data services just appeared on your regular phone bill. No credit card fear. They made it always connected, so users didn't need to log on and off constantly. They curated the content, making it easy to navigate, not overwhelming. They basically took the best of the internet and made it mobile-friendly and super convenient.
That combination was revolutionary at the time.
It really was. It didn't just win customers from competitors. It dramatically grew the market. It converted people who only used phones for voice into voice and data users. And it attracted entirely new segments like teenagers and senior citizens who hadn't used the PC internet.
So the core insight was looking at the alternatives people were using and bridging the gap by eliminating the frustrations.
Exactly. Your biggest untapped market might be people currently using an entirely different solution, just waiting for you to make it better, easier, or more accessible.
Okay, that's path 1. Look across alternatives. What's path 2?
Path 2 is to look across strategic groups within industries.
Strategic groups. What are those?
Strategic groups are basically clusters of companies within the same industry that pursue similar strategies. Think, for example, luxury car brands like Mercedes versus economy car brands like Kia, or full-service brokerage firms versus discount online brokers. They compete within the same broad industry, but target different customer segments with different business models, usually differing along 2 dimensions, price and performance.
Got it. So how do you find blue oceans by looking at these groups?
Blue oceans can often be found by understanding the key factors that cause customers to trade up to a higher-end group or trade down to a lower-end one. Why do people pay more for luxury? Why do others choose the budget option? The space between these groups often holds untapped opportunities.
Okay, an example for this one.
A fantastic example is Curves Fitness.
Curves, women's fitness chain.
Right, exactly. Think about the U.S. fitness industry back then. It was a typical red ocean with clear strategic groups. At one extreme, you had the traditional, often upscale health clubs. They offered a full range of services. Lots of machines, classes, maybe pools, spas, but they were often expensive, required significant time commitment, and could feel intimidating, especially for women.
Right, the big gyms.
Then at the other extreme, you had home exercise programs, videos, maybe some simple equipment. These were low cost, very private, and saved time. But the big downside was the lack of motivation and community.
Easy to skip a workout at home.
Very easy.
Yeah.
So Curves asked, what key factors made women trade up or down between these two groups? They found most women didn't choose health clubs primarily for all the fancy equipment or the juice bars. They wanted the motivation that comes from exercising with others. But they traded down to home exercise for convenience, privacy, not wanting to be judged or bothered, particularly by men, and lower cost.
So Curves tried to get the best of both worlds.
Precisely. Curves built its blue ocean by combining the key motivating factors of a traditional gym with the convenience, privacy, and low cost of home exercise. They eliminated most of the things traditional health clubs offered, all the complicated machines, the pools, spas, food courts, even locker rooms, and importantly, men.
Women only.
Women only. They reduced the physical space needed, the equipment complexity, using simple hydraulic machines, and personnel costs, allowing for much lower membership prices around $30 a month compared to $100 plus for many gyms.
And what did they raise or create?
They raised the convenience factor with a quick 30-minute circuit workout, and they created a unique environment, women only, focused on community, a social, non-judgmental atmosphere where members felt comfortable regardless of fitness level. This simple, focused approach opened the market to the broad mass of women who were underserved by the existing options, making fitness accessible and appealing in a whole new way.
Brilliant. Capturing the advantages of both alternatives while shedding the disadvantages.
Exactly. By understanding why customers traded up or down.
Okay, path 1, alternatives. Path 2, strategic groups. What's path 3?
Path 3 is to look across the chain of buyers.
A chain of buyers.
Yeah. In many industries, competitors tend to converge on targeting a common buyer group. Maybe it's the purchasing managers, maybe it's the end users. But often, there's actually a chain of buyers involved in the decision. You might have the purchaser, who pays for the product service, the actual user who consumes it, and important influencers who shape the decision.
Like doctors influencing patients or kids influencing parents on cereal choices.
Exactly. These different groups might overlap, but they often have very different definitions of value. Challenging the industry's conventional wisdom about who the target buyer should be can unlock a blue ocean.
Okay, how has this worked in practice?
Let's look at Novo Nordisk, the Danish insulin producer.
Insulin, okay.
Historically, the insulin industry, like most pharmaceutical sectors, focused intensely on doctors. Doctors were the key influencers. So companies geared all their efforts toward producing purer and purer insulin, responding to doctors' quest for better medication.
Makes sense. Impress the doctors.
It did, for a while.
Huh.
But by the 1980s, innovations in insulin purification had kind of matured. Competitors were converging, offering very similar high-purity products. It was becoming a red ocean. Novo Nordisk broke away by shifting its focus from the influencers, doctors, to the actual users, the patients themselves.
What did they find when they focused on patients?
They found patients faced a whole different set of challenges that the industry wasn't addressing. They struggled with the practicalities of handling syringes and needles, the social stigma associated with injecting in public, and the inconvenience of needing multiple injections per day, often outside the home.
The daily reality of managing diabetes.
Exactly. So based on these user insights, Novo created the Novo Pen in 1985. It was the first user-friendly insulin delivery system that looked kind of like a fountain pen.
Ah, the pen device.
Yeah. It contained pre-filled insulin cartridges, which simplified administration dramatically. It made injections quick, discreet, and allowed patients to manage their insulin frequently and easily, even on the go, without the hassle or social discomfort of traditional vials and syringes.
That must have been a huge leap in value for patients.
It was transformative. It shifted Novo Nordisk from just being an insulin producer to becoming a true diabetes care company. By focusing on the user's unmet needs, they created a massive blue ocean and became a global leader.
So the insight here is, sometimes your biggest opportunity lies not with who pays the bills or influences the decision, but with who actually uses the product day to day and faces the real pain points.
Precisely. Don't just assume the traditional target buyer is the only one that matters.
Okay, that's 3 paths down. What's path 4?
Path 4 is to look across complementary products and services.
Complementary offerings.
Well, untapped value is often hidden not just in your core product, but in the total solution that buyers are seeking. A simple way to spot this is to think about what happens before, during, and after your product or service is used.
Okay, give me some examples.
Think about going to the movies. The core product is the film, but the total experience includes things like finding parking before, buying snacks during, and maybe needing childcare. Or think about computer hardware. It needs operating software and application software to be useful. Or airlines ground transportation is needed after the flight. Often the pain points aren't in the core product, but in these complementary areas.
Right. The whole ecosystem around the product.
Exactly. Addressing hassles and complementary offerings can create significant value.
How has a company used this path?
Let's look at NEBI, a Hungarian bus manufacturer, and how they approached the U.S. transit bus industry.
Buses. Okay.
That industry, historically, competed almost solely on achieving the lowest initial purchase price for the buses. That was the main metric. As a result, designs were often outdated, deliveries were late, and quality could be pretty low.
Focus only on the upfront cost.
Right. NABI asked a different question. Why focus only on the initial price when municipalities, the buyers, typically kept these buses in service for 12 years or more? They decided to look across the complementary services involved in the bus's entire life cycle, things like maintenance, fuel, cleaning, repairs.
So they looked at the total cost of ownership, not just the purchase price.
Exactly. They reframed the market by looking at the life cycle cost for the municipalities. And they used this insight to innovate. By building their buses out of lightweight fiberglass instead of traditional steel, NEVI dramatically eliminated or reduced costs associated with corrosion prevention, ongoing maintenance, and fuel consumption over the bus's 12-year lifespan. Fiberglass doesn't rust. It's lighter and easier to repair.
So even if the initial price was higher,
Even though NEVI charged a higher initial price, its buses offered a much lower total life cycle cost. They also raised environmental friendliness, because the lighter buses used less fuel and had lower emissions. And they created factors unprecedented in the U.S. bus industry at the time, like modern aesthetic design and features that actually boosted ridership, things like lower floors for easier boarding and more seats, meaning less standing.
so they offered a better solution for the municipality and the riders.
Right. By looking beyond the bus itself to the entire ecosystem of costs and user experience over its lifetime. The insight. Your product is often only one piece of the puzzle. The full customer journey, including all the complementary bits, reveals hidden pain points and opportunities for value innovation. Think about Philips adding limescale filters to kettles, or Dyson creating bagless vacuums addressing pain points in the after-use phase.
Makes sense. Path 5.
Path 5 is to look across functional or emotional appeal for buyers.
Functional versus emotional. How does that work?
Industries often compete heavily on one orientation or the other. Some industries compete primarily on functionality and price, think basic commodities, or historically computers, where it was all about specs and performance for the price. Other industries compete mainly on feelings and emotional appeal, think cosmetics, luxury goods, where brand image and how it makes you feel are paramount.
Okay. So how do you find a blue ocean here?
A blue ocean can often be created by challenging this established orientation. If an industry competes mainly on emotion, what happens if you strip away the emotion and offer pure function? Or, conversely, if an industry is purely functional, can you inject emotion to create new appeal?
Interesting. Got an example.
Let's take QB House, Quick Beauty House, which created a blue ocean in the Japanese barbershop industry.
Japanese barbershops. Okay.
Traditionally, getting a men's haircut in Japan was a very emotional, ritualistic experience. It often took a full hour, involving things like hot towels, shoulder rubs, special massages, maybe even tea and shaving. The actual haircut itself was just a fraction of the time and service, and the price reflected all those extras. It was quite expensive.
A whole pampering session.
Exactly. Highly emotional, focused on the experience. QB House looked at this and decided to radically shift to a highly functional model. They eliminated all the time-consuming rituals, the massages, the shampoos, the hot towels. They reduced the service focus to purely the haircut itself, aiming for just 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. And they offered this purely functional, quick service at a very low price, around 1,000 yen, which was significantly cheaper than traditional barbershops. They even installed features like air hoses to blow away cut hair, eliminating the need for washing.
Purely functional.
Totally. This created a massive blue ocean for busy professionals, students, anyone who simply wanted a decent haircut quickly and affordably, without all the fuss. They didn't want the emotional pampering, they wanted efficiency. QB Household grew rapidly across Asia by shifting that functional emotional orientation.
So the insight is, sometimes the market is right for a fundamental shift in focus. If an industry over-delivers on emotional frills, simplifying to pure function can unlock new demand. And presumably, the reverse could also be true.
Absolutely. Think about how Swatch injected fun and fashion emotion into the purely functional budget watch market. It works both ways.
Okay, that's 5 paths. What's the final one? Path 6.
Path 6 is to look across time, focusing on external trends.
Trends, like technology or social changes.
Exactly. All industries are affected by external trends over time. Think about the rise of cloud computing, the global movement toward environmental protection, shifts in demographics, new regulatory landscapes. Looking at these trends with the right perspective, understanding how they will change value for customers and impact your business model, can reveal blue ocean opportunities.
But isn't just following trends what everyone does?
Many companies track trends, yes, but often passively or just reacting incrementally. The key to finding blue oceans here is to project how the trend will decisively change the market and customer expectations, and then to create a new value proposition that leverages that future state today. It's about shaping the trend, not just adapting to it.
Okay, how would that work?
Think about Apple and iTunes.
Ah, a classic.
Apple saw the explosive growth of digital music and illegal file sharing in the early 2000s. That was the clear external trend. While free downloading services like Napster existed, they came with significant pain points for the mass market.
What?
Poor sound quality often, difficulty finding complete albums or specific tracks, unreliable downloads. The whole experience was kind of clunky, and the content often reflected only niche, maybe teen tastes, plus the whole legality issue. These were major blocks to utility for a broader market beyond early adopters.
Right. It wasn't a great user experience.
Exactly. Apple didn't just react to the trend. They looked across time and asked, how can we leverage this digital music trend to offer vastly superior utility and create a legitimate market? iTunes leapfrogged the illegal services by addressing all those pain points.
How so?
It offered high-quality sound using the AAC format. It provided intuitive search and browsing, making it easy to find music. It offered curated content like editors' picks and celebrity playlists, adding value beyond just the tracks. And crucially, it provided a simple, legal, and affordable way to purchase music initially, 99 cents a song.
It made being legal easier and better than being illegal.
Precisely. It turned a powerful external trend, the shift to digital music, into a massive blue ocean by solving the existing problems and offering a compelling leap in value for both users and, importantly, the music labels. The insight. Trends alone aren't enough. It's how you proactively shape them to solve real problems and offer a clear utility leap for the emerging mass market.
Wow. Okay, so those 6 paths looking across alternatives, strategic groups, buyer chains, complementary offerings, functional emotional appeal, and time trends give you concrete ways to systematically search for blue ocean opportunities.
Exactly. They provide structured ways to challenge industry assumptions and reconstruct market boundaries.
This is fascinating, but creating a brilliant blue ocean idea using these paths is one thing. Making it a commercial success, bringing it to market effectively, that's a whole other challenge, right?
Absolutely. Execution is critical. Our sources reveal a crucial strategic sequence for building a robust business model that ensures not just a launch, but sustained profitable growth.
A sequence. Okay, what is it?
It goes like this. First, you must ensure exceptional utility in your offering. Does it solve a real problem or create a major new benefit? Second, you need to set the right strategic price, one that attracts the massive target buyers quickly. Third, you have to be able to meet your target cost to ensure profitability at that price. And finally, you must proactively address and overcome potential adoption hurdles.
Utility, price, cost, adoption. That order matters.
The sequence is very important. Many companies, unfortunately, fall into what the authors call the technology trap.
We touched on this earlier, getting excited about the tech itself.
Right. They get so enthralled by the bells and whistles of their new invention, assuming that because it's cutting-edge technology, it must offer cutting-edge utility for buyers. But the research consistently found this is rarely the case.
Just because it's new doesn't mean it's useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless the technology makes buyers' lives dramatically simpler, more convenient, more productive, less risky, or maybe more fun and stylish, it simply won't attract the masses no matter how many technical awards it wins. Remember, value innovation is distinct from technology innovation. It must be anchored in what truly matters to the buyer, the utility.
So how do you avoid that trap? How do you ensure you're offering exceptional utility?
You need tools to look at utility from the right perspective, the buyer's perspective. The sources introduced the buyer utility map.
Buyer utility map, okay.
It's a framework that helps managers think systematically about all the ways an offering can deliver utility. It outlines 6 potential levers companies can pull to deliver utility across 6 distinct stages of what they call the buyer experience cycle.
6 stages and 6 levers. Tell me more.
The 6 stages of the buyer experience cycle are typically purchase, how easy is it to find and buy. Delivery, how quick and easy is it to get. Use, how effective and easy is it to actually use. Supplements are other things needed to make it work. Maintenance, how easy is it to maintain. And disposal, how easy is it to get rid of.
Okay, the whole life cycle from the buyer's view.
Exactly. And cutting across these 6 stages are 6 utility levers, or ways to deliver value. Customer productivity, does it help them do things faster or better? Simplicity, is it easy to understand and use? Convenience, is it available when and where needed? Risk reduction, does it reduce financial, physical, or emotional risk? Fun and image, does it feel good or enhance their image? And environmental friendliness.
Wow, that's a 36-cell grid. Purchase simplicity, use productivity, maintenance risks.
Exactly. The map provides 36 potential utility spaces a product or service could potentially fill. It forces managers to ask, where does our offering currently focus? And more importantly, where are the biggest blocks to utility for buyers across this entire cycle? Where can we unlock exceptional value?
Can you give an example using the map?
Think back to the Ford Model T.
Okay. Early automotive industry.
Before the Model T, there were hundreds of automakers, mostly focused on custom-made luxury cars for the wealthy. Using the map, their focus was primarily on fun and image in the use phase. There were status symbols. Ford, however, looked at the map and realized the biggest blocks to utility for the mass market weren't about luxury.
What were they?
They were about Beverns of S. Convenience in the use phase, roads were terrible back then, making travel difficult, especially in bad weather. And risk reduction in the maintenance phase, early cars broke down constantly, and finding someone qualified and affordable to fix them was a huge risk and hassle.
Right. Unreliable and hard to fix.
So the Model T was designed specifically to overcome these blocks. It was built sturdy to handle poor roads. Convenience. It was designed for simplicity and reliability, making it easier and cheaper to maintain. Risk reduction. It brought basic, dependable transportation to the masses by focusing on the biggest utility gaps for them, completely changing the utility equation from luxury image to practical function.
That map seems like a really useful way to systematically check if your idea truly offers a leap in value.
It is. It helps you ensure you're starting with exceptional utility, the first step in the sequence.
Okay, so utility first. What's next? Strategic pricing.
Right. Once you're confident you have exceptional utility, you must secure a strong revenue stream. And that means setting the right strategic price from the outset.
Not just figuring out the price later.
No. The goal is to set a price that ensures the mass of target buyers not only want to buy your offering because of its utility, but also have a compelling ability to pay for it. You want rapid adoption, not just early adopters.
But how do you figure out that price, especially for something new, a blue ocean offering?
That's the challenge. Many companies mistakenly set a high initial price, targeting those novelty-seeking, price-insensitive customers first, and then plan to drop prices later for the mainstream. But in today's market, it's increasingly important to know from the start what price will quickly capture the target mass.
So how do you find that sweet spot price?
The key is to understand the price sensitivities of potential buyers, but recognizing they'll compare your new product or service not just to direct competitors, which might not exist in a blue ocean, but to a host of very different-looking products and services outside your traditional industry.
The alternatives again.
Exactly. You need to consider what alternatives serve the same function or the same objective. Remember the school lunch example. Parents packing lunches serve the same function as school catering, but in a very different form and cost structure. Or Cirque du Soleil, its strategic price had to consider the alternatives people used for the same objective of enjoying a night out, like restaurants or bars.
So you map out these different looking alternatives and their prices.
Yes. The book calls this mapping the price corridor of the target mass. By looking at the price points of these various alternatives, things that offer different forms but the same function, or different forms of functions but the same objective, you can identify a price range or corridor that is likely to attract the largest group of target buyers. Then you determine where within that corridor you should price lower to discourage imitation quickly, or higher if you have strong patent protection or other defenses.
That makes sense. Price it relative to what people are already paying for alternatives that meet the same need or objective.
Precisely. It anchors your price in existing buyer behavior, even for a novel offering.
Okay, so we have utility checked, strategic price set. What's the third step in the sequence?
Target costing.
Working backwards from the price.
Exactly. Once you've established your strategic price based on the price corridor, you then need to ensure you can make a healthy profit at that price. You work backward from the price to determine your required target cost. You ask, given the strategic price, what cost structure do we need to achieve to hit our desired profit margin?
So it's price minus profit equals target cost.
That's the basic formula. This rigid focus on hitting the target cost from the beginning is crucial. It forces companies to pursue differentiation and low cost simultaneously right from the start.
How do companies achieve ambitious target costs, especially when they're also trying to offer superior utility?
They typically pull three main levers, often in combination.
Year one.
First is streamlining operations and introducing cost innovations. This often involves radical changes to product design, manufacturing processes, or service delivery to strip out high-cost, low-value activities. Think back to Swatch.
The watch example.
Right. To hit their target $40 price point, their engineers had to completely rethink watch design and manufacturing. They drastically simplified the inner workings, reducing the number of parts from around 150 to just 51. They used cheaper plastic materials instead of metal. They developed new, highly automated assembly techniques. All this slashed direct labor costs dramatically, from about 30% of total costs down to less than 10%, allowing them to be highly profitable even at that low price.
So fundamental redesign for cost efficiency. Okay, lever two.
The second lever is partnering. Sometimes you can't achieve the target cost all by yourself or not quickly enough. Partnering allows companies to secure needed capabilities fast and effectively while simultaneously dropping their cost structure by leveraging other companies' expertise and economies of scale.
Examples.
IKEA is a master of this. It partners with thousands of specialized manufacturers globally to produce its furniture components at extremely low cost. Or think about SAP in its early days. It partnered with Oracle for its underlying database technology and with leading consulting firms like Capgemini and Accenture to build a global sales and implementation force, saving potentially billions in development and market entry costs.
Leveraging other scale and expertise. Makes sense. What's the third lever?
The third lever, used when streamlining and partnering still aren't enough to meet the target cost, is changing the pricing model of the industry.
Not just changing the price level, but how you charge.
Exactly. Sometimes, the way an industry traditionally prices things creates a barrier. Changing the pricing model itself can unlock demand and profitability. Think about NetJets.
The private jet company.
Right. Instead of trying to sell multi-million-dollar jets outright, which only a tiny market could afford, they changed the pricing model to fractional ownership, like a timeshare for jets. This made private jet travel accessible to a much wider range of customers who couldn't justify buying a whole jet, allowing NetJets to achieve volume and profitability. Other examples include shifting from selling software licenses to subscription models, SaaS, or using freemium models where a basic service is free, but premium features cost money.
So changing how people pay can be as powerful as changing what they pay.
It absolutely can. It overcomes affordability hurdles and can drive volume.
Okay. Utility, price, target cost. That seems like a solid business model. But you said there was a fourth step.
Yes, the final critical step, overcoming adoption hurdles.
Adoption hurdles. What are those?
Even if you have an unbeatable business model with exceptional utility, attractive pricing, and achievable costs, your blue ocean strategy can still fail if you don't proactively address the fears and resistance it might trigger among key stakeholders.
Stakeholders like who?
Our sources identify three main groups you need to consider: your own employees, your business partners like suppliers or distributors, and the general public, especially if your idea challenges social norms or faces regulatory scrutiny. Failure to anticipate and manage their potential resistance can derail your launch.
Can employee resistance really sink a good idea?
It absolutely can, or at least significantly delay it.
Yeah.
When Merrill Lynch first announced its move into online brokerage, a blue ocean move at the time for a traditional firm, its stock price actually fell 14%, largely due to widespread reports of internal resistance from its own powerful army of brokers who felt threatened.
Wow. So how do you avoid that?
Contrast that with Netflix's transition from DVDs by mail to streaming. That was a huge, potentially disruptive shift internally. But Netflix put enormous emphasis on engaging employees throughout the process, clearly explaining why the shift was necessary for long-term survival, what the changes would mean, and preparing them for the transition. That proactive communication helped manage internal resistance.
Makes sense. What about business partners?
Partner resistance can be even more damaging sometimes. Think about SAP again. When they developed accelerated SAP, ASAP, that methodology for faster, lower-cost software implementation.
It's the one that helped them hit target costs.
Yes. While great for customers in SAP, it directly threatened the lucrative revenue streams of the large consulting firms who profited enormously from long, complex, expensive SAP implementations. They had a strong incentive to resist or undermine ASAP.
So how do you deal with that kind of resistance from crucial partners? Or from the public if your idea is controversial?
The key, again, comes back to open communication and what the authors call fair process. You need to engage stakeholders early and openly. Discuss why the new strategy is necessary, explain its merits clearly, set realistic expectations about its potential impact on them, good and bad, and describe how the company plans to address any negative ramifications.
So no surprises.
Exactly. Stakeholders need to feel they've been heard, their concerns acknowledged, and that the process is transparent and fair, even if they don't love the outcome. This builds trust, fosters commitment, and encourages voluntary cooperation rather than foot-dragging or outright sabotage. You need to bring your stakeholders along on the journey.
Utility, price, cost, adoption. Getting that sequence right seems crucial for turning a blue ocean idea into a sustainable success.
It provides a clear roadmap for execution.
Now, we've talked about the strategy and the business model, but implementing something truly new, something that breaks from industry norms, often requires significant organizational change. And that's notoriously difficult. How do blue ocean leaders handle that?
That's a huge challenge, and it brings us to another key concept from the research: tipping point leadership.
Tipping point leadership, okay.
The core idea here is that transforming the entire organization all at once usually requires massive resources and takes a very long time. Luxuries most executives simply don't have, especially when trying to launch a new strategy quickly.
Right. Trying to change everyone's mind at once feels impossible.
It often is. So tipping point leaders take a different approach. Instead of focusing on the mass, they focus on transforming the extremes. They identify and concentrate their efforts on the people, acts, and activities within the organization that exercise a disproportionate influence on performance.
Like leverage points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By changing these extremes, they can trigger a rapid shift in the core organization, achieving fundamental change quickly and at a much lower cost. It's like using organizational judo, leveraging momentum rather than fighting inertia head-on.
That sounds much smarter than trying to boil the ocean. How does it work? The sources mention 4 specific hurdles they overcome.
Yes. Tipping point leaders systematically break through 4 key hurdles that often block strategy execution in established organizations. The first is the cognitive hurdle.
Cognitive hurdle, making people aware of the need for change.
Precisely. Getting people to agree on the causes of current problems and the need for a strategic shift. Relying on abstract numbers and data often doesn't work. Numbers can be debated, manipulated, and frankly, they're often uninspiring.
So what do tipping point leaders do instead?
They make people experience the harsh reality firsthand. They get executives out of the office and face-to-face with the worst operational problems. Seeing is believing, as the saying goes. Neuroscience confirms that experiencing something directly triggers a much stronger, more internally driven mindset change than just reading a report.
Can you give an example of this seeing is believing approach?
A classic example comes from Bill Bratton, who famously turned around policing in Boston and New York. When he was running the police division of the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, MBTA, the finance director and the board wanted to buy smaller, cheaper squad cars to save money. This directly contradicted Bratton's strategy, which required officers to be visible and responsive.
So Bratton argued with numbers.
No, he knew that wouldn't work. Instead, he invited the skeptical general manager for a tour of the district in one of the small, cramped proposed cars. Bratton, a big guy himself, squeezed in, put on his gun belt, cuffs, radio, all the gear, and then drove the manager around for 2 hours, hitting every pothole he could find, demonstrating how impractical and uncomfortable the car was for an officer trying to do their job.
Ugh. Bet the manager got the point quickly.
Very quickly. After 2 hours of being jostled around, unable to move comfortably, the manager was eager to get out and immediately approved the larger, more suitable cars Bratton's strategy demanded. Bratton called this approach riding the electric sewer, forcing decision-makers to confront the worst operational problems directly so they understand the need for change viscerally.
That's brilliant. Okay, so you break the cognitive hurdle by making people see the problem. What's the second hurdle?
The resource hurdle. Once people recognize the need for change, the next question is often, how can we possibly do this? We don't have the resources. New strategies often require shifts in resources, but budgets are usually tight.
The "we can't afford it" argument?
Exactly. Tipping point leaders overcome this not necessarily by fighting for more resources, but by focusing on multiplying the value of the resources they already have.
Getting more bang for the buck. How?
They do this primarily in two ways. First, by identifying and concentrating resources on hotspots. These are activities or areas that have a low resource input currently, but offer high potential for performance gains if given more focus.
Low input, high potential impact.
Right. And conversely, they identify cold spots activities that consume significant resources currently, but have a low performance impact. Then, they strategically shift resources from the cold spots to the hot spots.
Can you give an example of reallocating resources like that?
Let's stick with Bratton. When he took over the New York City Transit Police, his predecessors had consistently argued they needed thousands more officers to fight subway crime. Bratton achieved the sharpest drop in subway crime in history with the same number of officers he inherited.
Oh.
By analyzing crime data, he found that the vast majority of crimes occurred at only a few specific subway stations and lines. These were the hotspots. Paradoxically, these high-crime areas were often under-resourced in terms of police presence. Meanwhile, many officers were deployed in relatively low-crime areas, the cold spots. Bratton simply reallocated officers from the cold spots to flood the hotspots. Crime plummeted almost immediately without any increase in the overall police force or budget.
Wow, just putting the resources where they actually mattered most.
Exactly. The second way they multiply resources is through horse trading. This involves looking for opportunities to trade excess resources. Your unit doesn't need for resources another unit has in surplus, but that you do need.
Bartering within the organization.
Essentially, yes. Bratton's general counsel at the Transit Police, for example, discovered their unit had a surplus of unmarked cars they weren't really using. He found out the Division of Parole desperately needed cars, but had excess office space. So they made a trade. Cars for prime downtown office space, which the transit unit needed badly. It was a win-win, achieved by trading resources laterally, again without needing new budget allocations.
Clever. Okay, cognitive hurdle, resource hurdle. What's the third?
The motivational hurdle. Even if people understand the need for change and the resources are theoretically available, you still need to get them motivated to actually act on the new strategy, often requiring them to change long-standing habits and routines. That's tough.
Yeah, overcoming inertia and maybe fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
How do tipping point leaders tackle motivation?
Again, they don't try to motivate everyone individually, which is incredibly time-consuming. Instead, they focus their efforts disproportionately on the kingpins.
Kingpins.
These are the key influencers within the organization. They aren't necessarily defined by their job title, but by their reputation and influence. They are the natural leaders, highly respected, well-connected, and they often control access to critical resources or information. Persuading and motivating these kingpins has a ripple effect throughout the organization.
Like focusing on the precinct heads in the NYPD example.
Exactly. At the NYPD, Bratton identified the 76 precinct commanders as his kingpins. Each commanded several hundred officers. By focusing his motivational efforts, both positive reinforcement and accountability, on these 76 individuals, he knew he could influence the behavior of the entire 36,000-strong force much more effectively than trying to reach every cop directly.
So identify the key influencers and concentrate your efforts there. How did he keep them motivated and accountable?
One key technique was fishbowl management. This involves making the kingpin's actions and performance highly transparent to others, essentially putting them in a fishbowl. Bratton did this through regular CompStat meetings, where precinct commanders had to present their crime stats and strategies publicly in front of peers and superiors. This transparency raised the stakes. Significantly good performance was recognized, but inaction or poor performance was also clearly visible, creating strong incentives to adopt the new strategies. Importantly, this needs to be based on transparency, clear expectations, inclusion, and fair process to be effective, not just punitive.
Makes sense. Transparency drives accountability. Okay, only one hurdle left. What's the fourth?
The political hurdle. This is often the toughest one. Launching a new strategy, especially a blue ocean one that challenges the status quo, inevitably threatens established routines, power structures, and powerful vested interests within the organization. You will encounter internal political resistance.
The antibodies attacking the new element.
That's a good analogy. To overcome this, tipping point leaders need to identify and neutralize the key opponents early on. And the most effective way to do this is to secure a consigliere on their top management team.
A consigliere, like in The Godfather.
Uh-huh. Well, sort of. It means having a highly respected, politically astute, well-connected senior insider on your team who knows where the political landmines are buried, who the likely opponents will be, and how to navigate the internal political landscape.
Someone who knows how things really get done.
Exactly. Bratton, for instance, appointed John Tymony, a widely respected veteran cop who knew the NYPD inside out, as his number two. Tymony acted as Bratton's consigliere, identifying potential opponents to Bratton's reforms and helping build coalitions and counter-arguments before the political battles even began.
How did that help specifically?
Tymony could anticipate objections. For example, when Bratton wanted precinct commanders to start compiling detailed weekly crime statistics, a core part of his strategy, Tymony knew they would likely push back, claiming it was too time-consuming and took them away from real police work. So before even proposing it widely, Bratton and Tymony had already done a test run and knew for a fact that compiling the necessary data took no more than about 18 minutes a day, less than 1% of a commander's typical workload.
So when the commanders inevitably objected,
Bratton could immediately counter their argument with irrefutable facts, neutralizing the political resistance before it gained traction. He won the battle before it began by anticipating and disarming the opposition, thanks to insights from his consigliere.
wow, having that political insider seems crucial.
It's vital for navigating the internal landscape and protecting the new strategy from political attacks.
So this whole tipping point leadership approach, breaking the cognitive, resource, motivational, and political hurdles by focusing on the extremes, seems like a much more targeted and efficient way to drive change than traditional mass-focused approaches.
It really does. It challenges the conventional wisdom that organizational change has to be slow, painful, and resource-intensive. By transforming the extremes, you can change the core fast and at relatively low cost, accelerating the adoption and execution of your blue ocean strategy.
Okay, this brings us towards the end of our deep dive. We've covered how to find blue oceans, how to build the strategy and business model, and how to execute it by overcoming organizational hurdles. What about making it last? How sustainable is a blue ocean?
That's a critical question. A blue ocean strategy's sustainability hinges significantly on the alignment of three crucial strategy propositions. The value proposition, offering exceptional utility minus price for buyers. The profit proposition, the price minus cost structure for the company. And the people proposition, the motivations and incentives for stakeholders like employees and partners.
Value, profit, and people. All three need to be aligned.
Yes, and critically, all three must ideally pursue both differentiation and low cost in their own way. If any one of these propositions is weak or misaligned, if you have a great value proposition but can't make money, or a great business model that your employees or partners resist, then even a brilliant blue ocean idea can achieve only short-lived success, or even fail outright. This holistic alignment is absolutely key to long-term performance.
You mentioned corporate graveyards being filled with companies that ignored the people part.
Sadly, yes. It's a classic execution failure. Companies get so focused on the product or the profits, they forget they need the willing cooperation of internal and external stakeholders to make it work.
Can you give an example of misalignment?
The Tata Nano, the ultra-low-cost car launched in India, is a stark example. It had a hugely compelling value proposition, a car for the price of a scooter, and a seemingly viable profit proposition based on scale. It got 200,000 orders in just 2 weeks.
Huge initial demand.
Massive. But it ultimately stumbled badly due to a major weakness in the people proposition, specifically for external stakeholders. The farming community in Singur, West Bengal, where Tata needed to build its main manufacturing plant. Intense land disputes and compensation issues led to protests, violence, and eventually forced Tata to relocate the entire factory, causing huge delays and cost overruns that severely dampened the Nano's initial momentum and success. The external people proposition wasn't aligned.
Wow. A failure to secure stakeholder buy-in killed the momentum. What about a positive example of alignment?
Let's contrast Napster with Apple's iTunes again. Napster, the original peer-to-peer music sharing service, clearly had a winning value proposition. 80 million users loved the free music, but its strategy had zero sustainability. Why?
Legality aside.
Legality aside, it completely lacked an external people proposition for its crucial partners, the record labels. It refused to develop a viable revenue-sharing model. This meant Napster could never create a sustainable profit proposition either, despite its huge user base. It was doomed.
And
Apple, by contrast, meticulously aligned all three propositions. Its compelling value proposition for buyers, easy, legal, high-quality downloads, was complemented by a compelling people proposition for its essential external partners, the major music companies. Apple gave them 70% of the revenue from song purchases, creating a win-win that secured the support of all 5 major labels at launch.
So the labels were motivated partners.
Exactly. And since iTunes also dramatically drove sales of Apple's already highly profitable iPod, it created a powerful positive reinforcing cycle for Apple's profit proposition across 2 interconnected platforms. This deep alignment across value, profit, and people was absolutely critical to iTunes' massive and sustainable success, ushering in a whole new era for digital music.
That alignment seems key. Does a well-aligned blue ocean strategy also create barriers to imitation, make it harder for competitors to copy?
Yes, absolutely. A well-aligned blue ocean strategy inherently brings with it considerable barriers to imitation, which effectively prolongs its sustainability. These barriers can be cognitive. Competitors might not understand or believe in the new model. Organizational imitating might require disruptive changes they're unwilling to make. Brand-related, the pioneer builds strong brand equity, economic scale advantages, and sometimes legal patents.
So blue oceans aren't necessarily short-lived?
Not at all. More often than not, a well-executed blue ocean strategy will go without credible challenges for many years. Think about Cirque du Soleil. Its blue ocean endured for over 20 years. Comic Relief's Red Nose Day concept nearly 30 years. Apple's iTunes dominated legal music downloads for more than a decade. These aren't fleeting advantages if the strategy is well aligned and executed.
But eventually, even blue oceans can turn red, right? Competitors catch up, the market changes.
Exactly. No company can or should rely on a single blue ocean forever. Industries inevitably evolve, imitators eventually emerge, and even the bluest oceans can start to get crowded and turn red over time. Sustained growth requires continuous innovation.
So how should companies manage this? How do they keep creating new blue oceans?
This is where dynamic corporate portfolio management comes in. The sources introduce a useful tool called the Pioneers, Migrators, Settlers Map, or PMS map.
Pioneers, migrators, settlers.
It's a way to visualize a company's portfolio of businesses or offerings. Pioneers are your current value innovations, the blue ocean offerings. They typically have the highest growth potential, but might still be consuming cash as they scale. Migrators are businesses that offer significant value improvements over the industry standard, but aren't radical blue oceans. They usually have solid, profitable growth potential, sitting somewhere between red and blue oceans. Settlers are your Me Too businesses, the offerings that largely mimic the competition. They might be cash generators, but they typically have only marginal growth potential and are anchored firmly in red oceans.
So you map your current businesses onto this framework. What does that tell you?
It gives you a snapshot of your company's growth trajectory. A portfolio heavily weighted towards settlers suggests future growth is likely constrained. A healthy portfolio usually has a good balance across all 3, with a pipeline of pioneers being developed to drive future growth as today's migrators and pioneers eventually become settlers.
Can you give an example of a company managing this well?
Apple, again, is often cited. They've maintained strong, profitable growth over decades by continually launching new pioneers, think iMac, then iPod, then iTunes, then iPhone, then iPad, Apple Watch. Each created a new wave of growth as previous pioneers matured into migrators or even settlers. They also strategically managed red ocean competition by launching variants like different iPod models at various price points when imitators started encroaching, effectively managing the transition from blue to red.
A continuous cycle of blue ocean creation and managing the portfolio.
Exactly. Contrast that with Microsoft for a period. Its deep dependence on its huge settler businesses, Windows and Office, while highly profitable, led to a prolonged slump in growth and perceived innovation. Its portfolio became unbalanced. To reignite strong growth and regain its innovative edge, Microsoft needed and has been working on building a better balanced portfolio with more migrators and true pioneers.
That PMS map seems like a useful strategic tool for ensuring long-term vitality.
It really helps focus attention on the need for ongoing value innovation at the corporate level.
Before we wrap up, our sources highlight one critical red ocean trap people fall into when thinking about this strategy. What is it?
It's a very common misconception. The belief that blue ocean strategy is simply a customer-oriented strategy, that it's all about being customer-led, listening closely to your existing customers, and giving them what they want.
Wait, isn't being customer-focused a good thing?
It is, generally. But here's the subtle trap. A blue ocean strategist gains the most profound insights about reconstructing market boundaries, not by looking primarily at existing customers and asking how to make them happier within the current framework. Instead, They gain crucial insights by exploring non-customers.
Non-customers, people who aren't buying from the industry at all.
Exactly, or people who are only minimally using the industry's offerings currently. When organizations mistakenly assume that blue ocean strategy is just about being customer-led, they reflexively focus on what they've always focused on, their existing customers.
And what's wrong with that?
While listening to existing customers might shed light on ways to make incremental improvements, maybe make your current offering slightly better or cheaper, it is not the path to create fundamentally new demand and break away from the competition. To create new demand, you need to understand why non-customers are refusing to patronize your industry.
Because non-customers hold the key to the industry's limitations.
Precisely. Non-customers, not current customers, often hold the greatest insights into an industry's fundamental pain points, its compromises, its intimidation factors, all the things that limit the size and boundary of the current market. Focusing solely on making existing customers happier tends to drive companies to just do more of the same, maybe for less cost, anchoring them ever more firmly in the red ocean. You need to look beyond your current base to find the big opportunities.
That distinction between focusing on customers versus non-customers seems absolutely crucial for actually creating a blue ocean versus just improving within the red one.
It's a fundamental mindset shift required for this strategy.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive into blue ocean strategy. We've covered so much ground, exploring how companies can break free from that brutal head-to-head competition of red oceans by creating entirely new, uncontested market space.
It really is a powerful framework. And the key takeaway is that it's not just about some flash of genius or radical new technology. It's about value innovation, that systematic approach to simultaneously pursuing differentiation and low cost, fundamentally defying conventional strategic wisdom.
Yeah, we saw how practical tools like the Four Actions framework eliminate, reduce, raise, create, and the strategy canvas can really illuminate new possibilities, and how those 6 paths looking across alternatives, strategic groups, buyer chains, complements, functional emotional appeal, and time can systematically reveal hidden opportunities.
Absolutely. And then getting the execution right using that strategic sequence. Ensuring exceptional utility first, setting the right strategic price, hitting the target cost, and proactively overcoming adoption hurdles, often using tipping point leadership and fair process to manage the internal and external challenges.
So listening to all this, what does it all mean for you, our listeners? Think about your own industry, your team, maybe even a personal project you're working on. Where are you currently swimming, perhaps feeling stuck in a red ocean?
Yeah, reflect on that. What are the factors taken for granted in your field that maybe you could eliminate or significantly reduce? What could you raise well above the current standard? Or even more excitingly, what could you create that the industry has never offered before to deliver a real leap in value?
And importantly, think about who you're trying to deliver that value to. Are you just focused on existing users, or are you considering those non-customers, the people currently sitting on the sidelines that you haven't even considered reaching before?
That's often where the biggest insights lie. Are you focusing only on making existing customers incrementally happier within the current framework, maybe fighting over fractions of market share? Or are you looking deeply into why non-customers are avoiding your industry's offerings entirely? The truly massive opportunities often lie in those unexplored blue ocean territories, just waiting for someone to define a new value curve.
That is a powerful thought to chew on indeed. Where could you create your own blue ocean? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration of blue ocean strategy has given you plenty to think about and perhaps even apply in your own context.
Hope it sparks some ideas.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.